So in this tutorial, we're going to go over three different types of VR locomotion. The first of which I'm going to demonstrate, I have a full tutorial on, which is connecting the VR rig to the character actor. And we're looking at ways to do that in a much more automated fashion. It's actually really easy to do. It just takes about 3 or 4 steps. That then gives you this type of control. Let me demonstrate it out here. I guess my VR rig is part way up the hill here. Come back down the hill here. I'm going pretty fast. Let me get both my controllers here in range. Yeah. So what I've got is the thumb pad on my left hand controlling side to side and forward and back movement. So this character, it hugs the surface of the terrain. Like I started up on that hill, and I can also I can like basically it'll go up anything with a rigid body. So if I basically push forward and then use the index trigger on my left hand, I've bound to be the jump. So this character has kind of a jump mechanic. So I can kind of build my own stairway to, whoops, you don't want to move things that are touching you. You will affect your own character. But yeah, I can kind of like move around up on these diagonals. And which is great because it's a very like human-ish motion type. And sure, I love to fly and be kind of like feel that kind of superhero feeling, or I've always wanted to be a bird. But I realize that there's often experiences that you want to create that restrict people to kind of set geometries, kind of the set sort of gravity, and that if you have kind of an architectural experience, or you want someone to have, not like fly up and through walls or something like that. I'm trying to manipulate this in a way that gets me what I want here. That's good enough. There we go. I think that we will just about be too steep for that one. Anyway, so this is the character actor connected to the VR rig, and I've got another tutorial on how to do that. Now I'm gonna create a new show, and I'm gonna show you the VR rig preset of fly. So let's get something to fly over. I'm gonna zoom way out and make some stuff here. I'm gonna make some boxes here. Build some large items here. Go back to this tool. There we go. So the VR rig preset, I'll just put it into the space. It is preset to have the left hand. So if you look at the VR rig, it has the left hand index trigger. It has this fly node. And this is a little piece of code that imbues the left index trigger, connects the left index trigger to a little script. And the script is basically travel in 4 meters per second, whichever direction the controller is looking at. And so it's getting the direction of the controller, and then adding the position of the VR rig, which carries your camera and controllers with it. And so that's, if you want to crank up the speed on fly, you can multiply this number right here. So it defaults to 4, but if you want to fly at ludicrous speed, you can crank that way up. And you can also dynamically, set this. You could create a value on top of this node dot speed equals whatever, and then change that based on where you are in the world. So if you flew higher, you could make speed go bigger, and then it would multiply by speed right here. But anyway, I'll bring it in at 14. Started at 14. Remember, it starts at 4. But I'm going to be flying around some big structures, so it's kind of nice to have a little speed. And so when I go into VR, and you're seeing me again stereoscopically, wherever I point the left hand, I fly to that direction. And one of the things you don't get with this is that you can fly inside of things. And we don't have anything particularly restricting in there. If you wanted to restrict things, there's some ways to do it, but you kind of have to do that manually right now. But this is a wonderful mechanic because it's kind of this magic broomstick in a way. It's sort of like I fly, or like I fly wherever I point. And if I want to fly to the side. If I want to fly, to my side while looking at something. If I want to fly backwards, I point it kind of over my shoulder. If I want to fly sideways, I can, and I can look forward. So you get these nice vistas, or sort of like pan, or like dolly shots, and sort of like jib shots in like a video sense. And so that's the fly mechanic, and it'll also fly. You'll also fly underneath the ground. So it's a pretty unrestricted locomotion, and that's pretty awesome in a lot of circumstances. Let me point my camera there. Interactions, grabbable, fixed. So if I make some of these things grabbable, just as a recollection, either of my grip triggers by default on this preset rig, when I grip them, will grab these items in a fixed manner, meaning that they like constrain to all 6 degrees of freedom with me. They don't pivot around the point at which I grab them, which gives me these abilities to like throw buildings around. And I didn't set grabbable on this, so you'll see that I can't grab it when I try, but I do have a few that I did set grabbable to. So I can use those to kind of manipulate these others. And you can really tell the like mass kind of game when I try to like throw this there. I don't get a lot of response. Anyway, so that's flying, and you can see the kind of like ability I have to point and move around and kind of play a game of like giant building polo, right? So that's fly, and then I'm going to show you the teleport. We'll do we can teleport actually right here. So while fly is available, I'll go ahead and show you teleport. So let's take let's actually use like a cylinder. We'll use these like almost like a lily pad kind of situation. Let me make them a unique color. That's fine. And what we have under interactions is teleportable to. So teleportable to means that if I click this object, that I will teleport onto it. And what you can do is kind of build out, in a way, like a path, if you wanted, of like way stations, in a sense, of places that you're going to kind of hop from one to the next, and just to make sure, I'll actually delete fly, and so you'll be able to kind of see how that works. Is that I can't fly, and if I use the grip trigger on these now, let's get both my controllers are tracking. If I point at this and I hit the grip, I have now jumped directly to the point at which I clicked it. So I can actually jump to right there. Just a slight bit, you go a slight bit behind it. So if I point at there, I've now teleported there. And now I've jumped and teleported there, and I've made it through my wayport. So that's actually a really easy way, like if you wanted to set up like an art gallery or some Yeah, and obviously some people prefer not to have kind of fluid motion and feel the effects of acceleration. So a reminder is that there's a little bit of motion sickness, and even more for in general. It's been studied more for women than tends to be men. Um, and also that it's motion sickness will be felt when you're experiencing acceleration and you expect the feeling of force but not velocity. And so one of the things that we've done, that I've kind of tuned in the fly mechanic is actually that you fly at the speed of the trigger. And so actually when you press a trigger down really quickly, it's almost immediately ramps through the velocity of the percentages going from 0 to 1. It ramps up to 1 really quickly. So there's not a lot of time. There's a really short time frame when you're actually experiencing um, a change in velocity. And so that curve looks pretty, like the velocity curve looks fairly plateaued. And people tend to experience less motion sickness because of that. The other thing that's nice about the fly mechanic is that that you point and you're actually physically engaged in telling, you're using your body to choose the direction that you're going to go. And in doing so, your body seems to kind of tune in, and expect and anticipate where it's about to move next. And I've been told by people who get sick under a lot of different locomotions that fly makes them less motion sick. But that being said, that's why you want to kind of have teleport as an option. And so the last thing I'll say about teleport is that you saw that you can make kind of discrete, lily pads in essence. You can also take a mesh like this, and if I scaled it out, I'm gonna hit R for scale, and if I make it really big, anywhere I click, that whole thing becomes teleportable too. So if I was standing on this, can I get in there? It's a little too high. I made this thing too big. Oops. I sunk it. Let's just change its height. So here I am on this platform, and I can so if you just put a mesh out and put that on it, you'll notice that you can teleport anywhere on this. So if you made a ground surface that was some plane or something, I don't think I put it on this one. Clearly didn't, but I did on that one. But yeah, so now anywhere I click on this cylinder, I'm good to go. I think that if I take this teleportable node and I actually just drag it so that its parent is the space. No. There you go. You've got fly, you've got teleport, and the VR rig actor. 3 different types of locomotion, and with different effects. End.